Good morning / afternoon / evening, everyone. Today, I want to talk about something we all engage with multiple times a day, yet often without full awareness of its long-term effects, our diet. But rather than giving you a list of foods to eat or avoid, I want to guide you through how different diets act as signals to the body, influencing systems far beyond the digestive tract. Let's begin with a fundamental concept. Food is not just fuel. It's information. Every time you eat, you're sending a cascade of chemical messages throughout your body. Those messages influence your hormones, your brain chemistry, your immune system, even how your genes express themselves. This is why the type of diet you follow has profound consequences on your short and long-term health. When we think about diet, we often reduce it to calories in versus calories out, a simple equation of energy balance. But this view misses a critical truth. Food is not just fuel, it's information. Every meal you eat is a set of molecular signals that communicate with your body's cells, hormones, and organs. These signals can either promote health or contribute to dysfunction, depending on what and when you eat. For example, when you consume a meal rich in carbohydrates, especially simple sugars, your blood glucose rises, triggering the pancreas to release insulin. Insulin is not just a blood sugar regulator, it's a master hormone that influences fat storage, hunger, and even how your brain functions. A spike in insulin sends a very specific message: store energy, reduce fat burning, and prepare for a period of abundance. In contrast, when you eat a low-carb, high-fat meal, insulin levels stay relatively low, and the liver begins to produce ketones molecules that can fuel the brain and reduce inflammation. That sends a different message: rely on stored energy, remain mentally alert, and conserve resources. It doesn't stop at insulin. Dietary protein stimulates another powerful signal, mTOR, a pathway involved in growth and cellular repair. When mTOR is activated, your body gets the message to build to grow muscle, repair tissue, and ramp up metabolism. On the flip side, when mTOR is suppressed, as is during fasting or low protein intake, your body enters a more conservative state, focusing on cleanup processes like autophagy, where damaged cells and proteins are broken down and recycled. These responses are not just about energy use. They're about survival strategies shaped by evolution. The body interprets nutrient intake as clues about the environment. Is it a time of plenty or scarcity? Should we grow, reproduce, conserve energy, or defend against pathogens? This is why two people can eat the same number of calories but experience very different outcomes depending on the macronutrient composition, the timing of the meal, and their individual biology. It's also why diets with the same caloric content can have vastly different effects on inflammation, mood, cognitive function, and longevity. So when we talk about diet, we need to move beyond the question of how much we're eating and ask a more meaningful one: what are we telling our body with the food we eat? Because food doesn't just nourish us, it instructs us. And those instructions shape everything from how we feel today to how we age over the years. The macronutrient composition of your diet, how much protein, fat, and carbohydrate you consume, plays a crucial role in shaping your body's metabolic responses, hormonal balance, and even long-term health outcomes. Different ratios of these macronutrients send different physiological signals that influence how your body generates energy, stores fat, builds muscle, and regulates hunger. When you consume a diet high in carbohydrates, especially refined or simple carbohydrates, your body prioritizes glucose as its main energy source. This triggers a sharp increase in blood sugar, followed by a surge of insulin, the hormone responsible for transporting glucose into cells. Over time, if this pattern is repeated frequently, your cells can become less responsive to insulin, a condition known as insulin resistance. This metabolic shift is at the root of many chronic diseases, including type 2 diabetes, obesity, and cardiovascular disease. On the other hand, complex carbohydrates paired with fiber digest more slowly, leading to a more gradual release of glucose and a healthier insulin response. The kind of carbohydrate matters as much as the quantity. In contrast, a low-carbohydrate, high-fat diet, such as the ketogenic diet, suppresses insulin levels and shifts the body into a state called ketosis. In ketosis, the liver converts fat into ketone bodies, which can be used as an alternative fuel source, particularly by the brain. Ketones have been shown to reduce oxidative stress, support mitochondrial function, and even suppress appetite, which may explain why some people find this diet effective for weight management and mental clarity. However, this state can also elevate stress hormones like cortisol in some individuals, particularly when carbohydrate intake is reduced too aggressively or without adequate nutrient balance. Protein intake activates its own unique hormonal and cellular responses. It stimulates the release of glucagon, which balances the effects of insulin, and it triggers the mTOR pathway, which is essential for muscle growth, tissue repair, and overall anabolic processes in the body. But like any powerful tool, mTOR needs to be regulated. Chronic overstimulation through excessive protein intake without proper fasting or rest periods may accelerate aging and increase the risk of certain diseases, whereas strategic cycling of protein intake, combined with resistance training and recovery, can promote optimal performance and longevity. It's also important to note how the body integrates these signals based on timing, frequency, and context. A high-carbohydrate meal after intense physical activity sends a very different signal than the same meal consumed late at night in a sedentary state. The metabolic state you're in, fasted or fed, rested or stressed, active or inactive, modulates how your body interprets macronutrients and what downstream effects they generate. Ultimately, the macronutrient composition of your diet is not just about preferences or calories. It's about what you're asking your body to prioritize. Are you instructing it to store energy or burn it, to grow or to repair, to be alert or to rest? These questions are answered not by willpower, but by the molecular signals that come from the foods you choose. Understanding and manipulating these signals with intention allows you to design a diet that supports your specific goals, whether it's metabolic health, cognitive performance, or long-term vitality. The timing of your meals plays a critical role in how your body processes food, regulates hormones, and maintains energy balance. For a long time, diet was mostly discussed in terms of what to eat, but we now understand that when you eat can significantly influence your health, sometimes as much as the food itself. This idea is rooted in the biology of circadian rhythms, your body's internal clock that governs everything from hormone production to digestion to cellular repair. Your body operates on a roughly 24-hour cycle that's synchronized with the natural light-dark cycle. Hormones like cortisol, melatonin, insulin, and ghrelin fluctuate based on the time of day. For instance, insulin sensitivity tends to be higher in the morning and lower at night, meaning your body handles carbohydrates more effectively earlier in the day. If you eat a large carbohydrate-rich meal late at night, your body is more likely to store it as fat and experience a prolonged glucose spike, which can disrupt sleep, impair recovery, and raise your risk of metabolic issues over time. Time-restricted eating, or compressing your meals into a consistent 8 to 10-hour window each day, has been shown in both animal and human studies to improve glucose control, reduce inflammation, enhance mitochondrial efficiency, and even support fat loss without necessarily reducing calorie intake. That's because eating within a defined window aligns food intake with your body's natural cycles of metabolism and cellular repair. During the fasting period, your body shifts into a different state, one where it clears out damaged proteins, activates genes involved in longevity, and becomes more metabolically flexible. This doesn't mean you need to fast for extreme lengths of time. The key is consistency and alignment with your circadian biology. Eating your first meal within a few hours of waking and finishing your last meal at least 2 to 3 hours before bed helps synchronize digestion with the natural rise and fall of cortisol, insulin, and melatonin. In doing so, you're not just fueling your body, you're reducing internal friction between systems and creating a rhythm that supports everything from mood to muscle repair to immune function. Importantly, the benefits of time-restricted eating don't only come from what's being avoided, like late night snacking or excess calories, but from the signals being reinforced. By restricting food intake to a predictable window each day, you help reinforce the body's biological rhythm, which in turn helps regulate appetite, improve sleep quality, and enhance metabolic resilience. Over time, this synchronization becomes a kind of low-effort health multiplier. You're giving your body the structure it needs to function at a higher level without adding complexity. In this way, meal timing becomes more than a lifestyle choice. It becomes a tool for restoring balance, improving performance, and supporting long-term health at the cellular level. The food you eat doesn't just feed you, it feeds trillions of microbes living in your gut, and those microbes in turn play a critical role in regulating your overall health. This vast community, known as the gut microbiome, responds rapidly to dietary changes, often within hours. And the composition and activity of your gut bacteria have far-reaching effects, not just on digestion, but on immune function, hormone production, inflammation, and even brain chemistry. When you eat a diet rich in diverse plant fibers, such as vegetables, legumes, whole grains, and fruits, you're providing fuel for beneficial bacteria that produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. These compounds help maintain the integrity of the gut lining, regulate immune responses, and even influence the expression of genes involved in inflammation and metabolism. In other words, a fiber-rich diet sends a powerful anti-inflammatory, immune-supporting message to the body through microbial intermediaries. Contrast that with a diet high in processed foods, added sugars, and low in fiber. That kind of eating pattern promotes the growth of pro-inflammatory bacteria, decreases microbial diversity, and weakens the gut barrier. Over time, this can lead to what's known as leaky gut, where unwanted substances slip through the intestinal lining and enter the bloodstream, triggering low-grade systemic inflammation. This inflammation isn't localized. It affects your brain, joints, skin, and organs. So the signal being sent from that kind of diet is one of imbalance, threat, and instability. Even more fascinating is how this microbial ecosystem communicates directly with the brain. The gut and brain are linked by the vagus nerve, forming a bidirectional communication network known as the gut-brain axis. Gut bacteria produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, key chemicals involved in mood, motivation, and relaxation. In fact, over 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in the gut. A disrupted microbiome can impair the production of these compounds, which may explain why poor diet quality is often associated with anxiety, depression, and cognitive fog. Furthermore, your microbiome adapts quickly to the dietary signals it receives. If you consistently feed it processed, low-fiber foods, the microbial balance shifts in favor of species that thrive on sugar and fat, and this creates a feedback loop. Those microbes then influence your cravings, pushing you to keep eating the foods that sustain them, even if they harm you. On the flip side, if you start incorporating more fiber, fermented foods, and nutrient-dense meals, you start to cultivate a healthier microbial landscape, one that supports rather than sabotages your efforts to feel well. So when we talk about diet as a signal to the body, it's not just your own cells that are listening. Your gut bacteria are listening too, and they respond quickly, shaping your biology from the inside out. The key takeaway is this: every meal is an opportunity to shape your internal environment. You're either feeding a system that supports resilience and clarity, or one that drives inflammation and dysfunction. And the difference often begins with what's happening in your gut. What you eat has a direct and measurable impact on your brain, on how you think, how you feel, how you focus, and how resilient you are in the face of stress. The connection between diet and mental function is not abstract, it's deeply biological. Every nutrient you consume or fail to consume affects the chemical processes that shape your cognition and emotional state. Diets high in processed sugars and industrial fats have been shown to disrupt neurochemical balance. When you consume high glycemic foods, those that cause rapid spikes in blood sugar, you trigger not only insulin release, but also a stress response in the brain. Blood sugar crashes that follow these spikes can lead to irritability, anxiety, and impaired concentration. Over time, consistently high sugar intake has been linked to reduced brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, a molecule essential for neuroplasticity, learning, and memory. Low BDNF is also associated with depression and cognitive decline. In contrast, nutrient-dense diets rich in omega-3 fatty acids, antioxidants, amino acids, and key vitamins and minerals provide the building blocks the brain needs to function optimally. Omega-3s, found in fatty fish, walnuts, and flaxseed, are critical for the structural integrity of brain cell membranes and help regulate inflammation within the central nervous system. Antioxidants from colorful vegetables and berries help protect brain tissue from oxidative damage, which accumulates over time and is strongly linked to age-related cognitive decline. Amino acids from protein sources are used to synthesize neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and acetylcholine, each of which governs different aspects of mood, motivation, and focus. Just as important as what you include in your diet is what you avoid. Chronic low-grade inflammation, which is often diet-induced, is now recognized as a contributing factor in a wide range of mental health conditions, from depression and anxiety to brain fog and burnout. Inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein have been found to be elevated in individuals with mood disorders, and dietary interventions that reduce inflammation often lead to improvements in emotional stability and clarity of thought. Sleep quality and emotional regulation are also tightly linked to dietary choices. For example, magnesium-rich foods such as leafy greens and legumes help regulate the parasympathetic nervous system and can promote deeper, more restorative sleep. Poor sleep, in turn, increases cravings for highly palatable, high-calorie foods the next day, creating a feedback loop that erodes both mental and physical resilience over time. This isn't just about short-term focus or long-term protection against diseases like Alzheimer's. The reality is that your brain is constantly remodeling itself, responding to the inputs it receives from the outside world and from inside your bloodstream. Food is one of the most powerful, immediate, and controllable inputs. Each meal is an opportunity to either stabilize your mood, sharpen your cognition, and support neuroplasticity, or to disrupt those systems and impair performance. In this way, your diet acts as a daily vote for the kind of mental and emotional state you're reinforcing. It's not about perfection, it's about patterns, and over time, those patterns determine how effectively your brain supports the person you're trying to become. No two people respond to food in exactly the same way. What works remarkably well for one person may create fatigue, weight gain, or digestive issues in another. This is because diet is not just about the food itself. It's about how your unique biology interprets and responds to that food. Factors like genetics, gut microbiome composition, activity level, stress load, sleep quality, and even the environment you live in all influence how your body processes nutrients and what kind of dietary pattern best supports your health. Some people thrive on high carbohydrate, plant-based diets. Their metabolism is highly efficient at processing starches and fibers, their insulin response is well regulated, and they feel energized and focused when their meals are built around fruits, grains, and legumes. Others feel sluggish, hungry, or mentally foggy on that same plan, and do much better on a high protein or low carbohydrate approach, where blood sugar remains more stable and ketone production enhances cognitive clarity. Even individual responses to specific foods can vary widely. A food that spikes blood sugar dramatically in one person may have a much smaller effect in someone else. This variability can be influenced by the time of day, sleep the night before, meal composition, stress hormones, or the state of the gut microbiome. That's why a healthy food by conventional standards isn't necessarily a healthy food for you if it triggers inflammation, disrupts your energy levels, or leaves you feeling unwell. It's also important to recognize that your nutritional needs change over time. What worked for you at age 25 might not serve you at 45 or 60. Hormonal shifts, lifestyle changes, shifts in muscle mass, and declining mitochondrial efficiency all influence how your body uses food. A diet high in raw vegetables might feel refreshing and energizing in your 20s, but could become harder to digest and less satisfying as you age when your metabolism and digestive enzymes shift. Similarly, someone training intensely or dealing with high levels of psychological stress may require more protein or electrolytes than someone with a sedentary lifestyle. This is why rigid adherence to one perfect diet often fails over the long term. The real power lies in listening to your body and adjusting your approach based on feedback, not just in terms of weight or appearance, but energy levels, focus, digestion, sleep, recovery, and emotional balance. Those signals are real data, and they can guide you more effectively than any one-size-fits-all meal plan. Ultimately, the most effective diet is the one that supports your biology, your lifestyle, and your current goals. It's not about dogma or discipline, it's about alignment. The more precisely your diet reflects your individual needs, the more clearly your body will respond with stability, clarity, and strength. That kind of self-awareness turns nutrition into a tool for optimization, not restriction. It transforms eating from a task into a practice of tuning in to what your body is actually asking for. So, when we step back and look at diet not just as fuel, but as a form of biological communication, a much deeper picture emerges. Every meal you eat is sending a signal not just to your muscles or fat stores, but to your brain, your hormones, your immune system, your gut, and even your genes. It's not just about calories, it's about instructions. Instructions that shape how you feel, how you age, how you recover, and how resilient you are in the face of stress. From the macronutrient composition of your meals to the timing of when you eat, from how your microbiome processes fiber to how your brain responds to sugar and fat, every element of your diet contributes to a feedback loop that can either support or sabotage your physical and mental performance. And perhaps most importantly, the optimal diet is not a fixed prescription. It's a moving target one that must be continually adjusted based on your unique biology, your goals, your environment, and the signals your body is sending back to you. This isn't about perfection. It's about precision. It's about using food with intention, as a tool to align your internal systems to create clarity instead of confusion, vitality instead of fatigue, and long-term resilience instead of short-term reward. Because when you understand that diet is a signal, you're no longer just eating to survive. You're eating to inform your body of who you are and where you're headed, and that makes every bite an opportunity to shape the trajectory of your health.